popped off low key, yeah, you know me. Kickin' with Tyree, hit a 3 like Kyrie.
Thank you guys for tuning in to Kickin' It with Tyree. I have my guest here, RJ, the Magic Man, or Magic Can.
Hello, Tyree, from Wisconsin, in New York. Former roommates, this is the thing.
Yeah, we used to live together. He took over the bathroom. It was cool.
I monopolized bathrooms.
So start off with telling everybody how you got started doing magic. I almost said music because it's stuck in my head.
Well, I'm a black magician. If you can't tell, it's very uncommon. So as a young child, I never got to see magicians because I'm from Racine. So also that's a thing. So it's not really known for having a shit ton of magic in Racine. So when I was a kid, I saw this movie on Disney Channel called Now You See Me. And it was before Now You See It, and it had this kid that won a magic competition, and he was doing all these tricks and shit, and he actually had magic powers, so that's how he secretly won. And it was a dumb movie, but in between the commercials, they had magic tricks, and I learned tricks from this little kid during the commercials, and I would practice by myself in my room because my mom is against magic. So that's how I started.
Why is your mom against magic?
My parents are Jehovah's Witnesses, so I'm not Jehovah's Witness, but they are. So they don't believe in college or holidays or birthdays or anything, and I became a magician. So that's me.
How did they take you becoming a magician?
At first I was because I went to a performing arts camp in New York my freshman year of college at UWO, and I started to teach their magic. And I was I think I want to start doing it when I get home. And she was like, why? And I'm because I might be good at it. And she's like, why would you do that? And then I got my first check was $150 for an hour. But to my mom, that's whoa. And I was yeah, how about now? So now it's with everything I do now, she gets it a little bit more, but she'll never really get it.
I feel like parents never get what you're doing. My grandma always be oh, I liked it, but I don't get it. That's fine. It's not for you.
Yo,
Grandma.
man, I was on Smithsonian Channel. They have a channel on TV for a documentary. And my mom's I can't believe they would give a kid time on TV. And I'm first of all, I'm 24. And I'm second of all, I'm an expert on the history of magic and Houdini as I was the director of the museum when they came to visit me. I'm this is a thing. I'm not just your son. I'm a person that does things.
I do this.
Yeah.
I do this, mother. How have you kind of grown as a magician from the start until now?
Okay. Well, I guess when I started, I didn't know what kind of magician I was going to be. Now I'm I do comedy magic. So I do I tell jokes, and they're usually I don't do kids magic. People always think I'm a kids magician because I'm good with children, but I'm just good around children. Yeah. I tell way too many dick jokes, so it's not good. So I started to figure out I had to get fired once or twice for doing the wrong joke at the wrong time to figure out what my style was going to be. And now I do a lot of corporate events and comedy clubs and things like that.
That's what's up. What was the first event you did that you knew that this was the rest of your life, what you want to do?
Okay. It was, we used to both work at Menards. Shout out.
Shout out Menards.
Are they racist?
Menards ain't racist. I wouldn't say it was racist.
No, maybe they donated to the Trump campaign.
True. Our manager was a Mexican dude. I remember that. He was funny.
No, he was not Mexican.
He wasn't?
No.
This whole time I thought this man was Mexican.
Jack or something. But yeah, shout out. But it was around that time I always knew I wanted to give a TED Talk doing magic. For some reason, I knew that was a step in my career. So when I was 20, I started arranging it. Maybe I'll do one at our school. Maybe I'll arrange it or go somewhere else. And I met the dude that was doing TED Talks at Oshkosh for the first year ever. And I was kick it off with a bang and do some magic. Do a magic TED Talk. That's a thing. And he's really? And I sent him some videos of different ones I liked. And he's we'll let you do. He let me take a chance. And he gave me 7 minutes to do a TED Talk. So afterward, I worked and shit like that at Menards, and then I came to this bar after the talk, and I felt really good. And this guy goes, "Isn't this you?" And he pointed to this picture with this poster with my picture on it, and I was "That is me! I'm fucking famous! I quit Menards. I never went back." But it was just the bar across the street from the theater. So they just passed out theater flyers across the street, but I thought I made it big. So I'm they can't see me fucking selling carriage bolts. I gotta get out. So that's what happened.
That's what's up. I remember that job. I also just randomly never went back. I didn't have a reason.
No, you didn't go first. You didn't go back first. So I was okay, Tyree did it. So it's it was cool. You and your friend Leo.
Yeah. Leo just like wrote a note after his shift and just left it on the counter and never came back.
You never came back either. I thought like they were like, where's Tyree? And I'm like, why are you asking me? Like, I don't know.
What happened was they were like, if you're late again, you will probably be fired. And I was like, I take the bus here, so I really don't control when I get here. So it's like,
I don't know.
I woke up late and I was like, you know what? This is a sign, and never went back.
Facts. I used to take things from like one side of the store and put them on the other side so I could go get them and claim that they were on the wrong side of the store. So I like hide shit, go and find it later. So my whole shift is finding things that I hid. It was great.
Just finding shit that I hid.
Yeah, you don't have to, because I stocked the shelf. I stocked
Yeah,
shelves.
you just stocked shelves, and I was like the person who was helping people, but I knew where nothing was.
Someone would be like, someone would be looking at something and they go, huh? And I'm like, oh, you need the toilet bowls? They're over here. And I would like walk them over there and find something. It was wild.
I used to just walk around that store. But I'm going to ask you a question. I know we both went to a PWI, predominantly white campus. How has that kind of shaped you coming out to New York?
Okay. That's a good question.
Where there's like so much diversity.
Yeah. I remember the first time I went out when I got to New York, I went to this, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I went to this bar by myself because like I had a few friends, but I was like, I want to do like that adult thing where you go by yourself and make friends and you're, I'm like, that's a thing. So I went out and I went to this hookah bar on the corner and I met this firefighter and he was like this black dude and he was like, yo, what's your name? And I'm like, I'm RJ. And he's like, nice to meet you. And he's like, let me buy you a drink. And I'm like, that's nice. He wasn't like hitting on me. He was with his girlfriend. But he was like, he was just like super like nice. And then he's like, what's your favorite thing about New York so far? And I was like, here, I'm just the guy. And in Wisconsin, I'm a black guy. So it's like here, like, I feel like I walk into a room, I'm not immediately like the black guy or the black magician. I don't have to explain myself everywhere,
Yeah, I definitely feel that. Just being out here and feeling the culture is kind of like wake up.
Yeah.
Like it's so much different than where we're from. So,
but it's also white people like shit like I didn't realize. So like for instance, I'll walk out and like here it's like you see my neighborhood, it's like a nice street, and then on the side of the streets it's like crackheads, and it's like it's wild because you walk outside and even though there's crackheads everywhere, if I walk out in my pajama pants they'll stare at me. It's like, but like in Wisconsin, I go to Walmart in my pajamas all the time, but here like no one goes out in pajamas. It's like little shit like that. So it's like I see.
That's crazy. I know, like, when you first started Magic, there was probably people like doubters. How did you kind of get past that stage and kind of just say, this is what I'm doing and fuck whatever?
I guess I don't know. I'm still in the stage, I think. I think that a lot of people, not a lot of people are like, you can't do it, but like I think the most thing is that like people don't care. You have to, like, same with music. You got to get people to want to listen to your music. And it's like my demographic for performing isn't really people our age because people our age don't have money to go see expensive shows. So it's like when I perform like on a stage or something, it's like not really cheap because it's a live performance. So like same with the comedy show. So it's like being able to be like my friends, like, hey, I'm good, but like it's just might not be your thing. But like I'm learning to get like I'm slowly changing to get more towards
slowly bringing in more demographics and
as people get older and less cool, young people are getting smarter, which I think I try to perform like smart comedy and like fun magic, if that makes sense, simultaneously.
That's what's up. Who are your influences in magic? What magicians do you look for influence?
I guess I think before magic I probably looked at like comedians. Like I think I like Dave Chappelle like a lot, just like because honestly like I think anyone can do any tricks, but like I think it's like stage presence. Like we talk about sometimes one of my favorite people is Moody from like Milwaukee. Yeah. And like Moody could be doing any song and he'd be like, whoa, who is that? You know what I mean? So I think that's what I try to be when I like perform. But then just with magic, I don't really have anyone I can think of that I'm really like, but maybe the Amazing Jonathan, who was like the comedian back in the day that did magic and he was on Comedy Central and all that stuff. And he's just like scared of nothing, but now he's like dying. So it's like very sad. Watch his documentary on Hulu.
I will. You said you were more influencing comedy, and now you kind of transformed your magic act into like a comedy magic act. How did you kind of get started with that, and what made you do that?
I think I was just doing magic, and it was really trash. Like I was trying to be like those guys that like cut people in half and shit, and it was just like so trash that this one time I cut someone in half and everyone could see exactly what I did, and I disappeared and appeared in the back of the room, and I was like, that was fucking sick. And then everyone in this theater, like 2,000 people, were like, we saw what you did, as I was running back, and it was like a nightmare, like slow motion. Like the one thing is for people not to see what you do, and I'm slow motion running up this stage, and 2,000 people are whispering that they saw exactly what I did. So it's like I'm not just good at just magic, but like if you make someone like laugh, the thing is when you laugh, your eyes close. So like that's like a perfect moment to do something. So if I can make people laugh as much as possible, your eyes are closed half the time, you know? So that's kind of like why I do it, I suppose.
That's the art of the trick.
Yeah.
I fucking love that. And I know that you're very into history.
Yes.
And you've been studying the history of black magicians. What do you want to bring forward with that? Because I know there's not much history of black magicians.
Correct.
And I'm not very, I don't have much knowledge in that.
Yeah.
If you can kind of help us out with that.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's like, I think it's cool. People say that to me a lot, and I think they feel guilty. And I'm like, you shouldn't know any black magicians because you'd like only maybe know like one or two white magicians anyway.
Yeah,
so it's like, It's not, even if you knew like, you'd have to know 10 for this to even be proportional. So I mean, like it's not a big deal, but it's like the idea that there's these people throughout history that have these stories that are better than Houdini. And this year I've been contacted about 3 different Houdini things, one for the History Channel, one for Smithsonian, and one for like Complex. So it's like, I just keep getting asked about Houdini, contacted about Houdini, on film for Houdini. And I'm like, I want to talk about somebody who came before. Actually, I know a magician who taught Houdini what he knew, and he was black before Houdini, you know? So I want to like tell these stories. And that was what I started to like write about when I was in college, like write for the newspapers about like stories of like black magicians, and it started to get picked up a little bit, and that's kind of like where I started.
Yeah, and just kind of moving into that, you said you used to write stories for newspapers and stuff like that. I know that you do a lot of kind of PR work as well. How did you get started in PR and representing different magicians around the country pretty much? Yeah.
Well, I met a dude who was on America's Got Talent named Chris Jones that came to our school, and he was doing a show, and he was like this dude that I saw. He hypnotized Howie Mandel, who's a germaphobe, to shake hands, and it has like 100 million views to this day. And I was like, yo, this guy's like my hero, because like I didn't have any heroes. I'm a black magician. So like he came, and I messaged his manager, and I was like, can you hit him up for me and ask him if I could meet him? And he was like, sure. And the dude like met me and took me to Culver's and like paid for my meal. And I was like, yo, what is this? And this is like the first like magician I met. And I realized that I can meet a lot of people just by hitting them up on like Twitter or Instagram or online. And I started to meet different magicians and like call them and hit them up and just like meet people from across the country that then call me and be like, well, I have this show that I'm doing. Like, do you think you can help me out? And like, I would start to get them in the paper and shit for like little things that they were doing. But that's how I started to get my skills with getting people in the paper. And that was just getting me like started with my career and doing my stuff.
And how have you kind of incorporated that into your own career?
You have to blank that out. Right now, I'm pitching a show to a network, and it's like a lot of people are like, "Well, how'd you do it?" Because it's just been a year. So it's like I've been planning on like doing something like this for the last 3 years. Yeah. So like before I moved here, I was writing stories and sending them to a dude that I emailed who worked at the New York Times, and I just liked his articles. And I was like, yo, I'm going to send you some stuff over the next few years. If you like it, please let me know, and I'd love to like talk to you a little bit more. And he was like, that sounds great. And I was like, whoa. Wow. So like I sent him stories, and I've always tried to get in the New York Times for something in Wisconsin, but it was just never big enough. And then I moved here, and I got hired as the director of the Houdini Museum. Houdini's from Wisconsin. And I'm like, this is the story. And I went to the guy who would be my boss, and I was like, you should hire me because I'm your story. Like, this will get you and everything. And he's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Who could you be? And I'm like, bruh, I'm a young black magician from Wisconsin working at the Houdini Museum. I'm like, this is a story of like a lifetime. Like, it's not like, it is, but it isn't. It's like, there's not going to be another one like me, at least for the next 20 years, just statistically. So,
and like, just saying like it could help the business.
Yeah.
Like, more people will come because they saw it in the New York Times.
Exactly. So I told him that I might be able to. And he's like, nah. So I sent it out anyway. And then the next day, we got responses from AM New York and a bunch of different papers. And then the Times saw that, and they came on Halloween and did an interview with me. And it got in the Times. That's how everyone saw me and started calling me for the initial TV show.
That's what's up. And I know you've been doing interviews through like talking about Houdini. And I know that your first kind of like gigs started at a restaurant called Houdini's.
Correct.
How is that ironic to kind of your story? You know, I know that you kind of started off saying like, is this guy the Black Houdini in a way?
Yeah, well, it's like that's what the Times article was about. Like, the article was called "He's Young, He's Black, Is He the Next Houdini?" And I was like, they asked me like why I always say that, and it's because like when I was performing in Appleton, I didn't know Houdini was from there, so I was doing all this magic, and people were like, "Are you the next Houdini?" And I'm like, "Man, you old people really like Houdini." And then one day I realized that I was performing like next to Houdini Plaza. I'm like, "Oh, he's from here," and then everyone just kept asking me that. So like, I don't claim to be the next Houdini, but it's something people always said, and I think it's like kind of cute considering I look. Houdini
Nothing
was
like
not black
Houdini.
or 6'2". Yeah, no,
Houdini was not Ray John.
no, not yet.
Houdini would want to be Ray John instead of that.
If I do it right.
Kind of where do you see yourself going forward right now? I know you have a lot of things that you can't really talk about, but what are your goals for yourself in your career?
Yeah, well, like short-term goals, I'm flying out in a few weeks to film this pilot for the show. It's my first pilot, and they say you do a lot of pilots, but maybe I'm really, really lucky, and we'll see. And the streaming service is paying for like a decent amount of it, and then my production company is paying for the other half. So this is like the first time I'm like getting able to like fly out, and like they're putting me up in a hotel, and I'm like getting able to do this stuff. But then I also have been filming stuff lately that's going to drop in 2021. So this is also like my first time like waiting for stuff to drop. So I'm doing that. I'm going to be on another show, on another streaming, on another streaming service that like they keep calling me, which is like really cool because I think these are the things that I would have gotten earlier, but then Corona hit. So I'm getting like all these calls now from like what would have probably been like 8 months, you know, of like, like
just
appearances
straight
and stuff, you know,
doing shit.
Yeah. So it's like that's what I'm doing like short term, but like long term, I would love to like do a tour if I like get a TV show or if I was able to get enough appearances, then people would like recognize me to do like a nationwide tour. Cause that's how you make like millions as opposed to like thousands, you know.
That's what's up. What would you tell let's say a black kid who wants to be a magician or a comedian? How would you kind of give them advice?
I would say, especially if you're in a small town, like don't listen to people. Like if people are just telling you you're trash, you're probably trash. Like if they're just like, if everyone you meet tells you you're trash, you're probably not great. But I mean, if like a lot of people tell you that they like it, you know, all you need is a lot of people because like most people won't buy tickets to live shows anyway, and that's where the money is. Like you don't have to be like famous to like my friends that tour and do colleges and make anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000 a year from touring colleges. So it's like you don't have to be famous, but yeah, don't let people who've like never done it or people who are like scared of it. Like it sounds really lame, but like a lot of people just don't get it because they're not your demographic.
Yes,
you know?
And that's definitely great advice because people who can always be a critic of anything you do without having any knowledge of anything you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's like, just do you and worry about fans later, I guess.
Yeah, I never had too many problems. Like everyone I meet and that perform for typically like likes. If I do a stage show, typically likes it. Like I never had conservatives like get really upset because my thing is too liberal. But just in general with my friends, like if my audience is like young liberals, like New York is a perfect place as opposed to like if a lot of people don't get it in Wisconsin, like a lot of people are conservative there. So it's like maybe that's it. But it's not really liberal versus conservative things. But it's also sometimes like it can be like that with comedy, you know?
Yeah. Let's say, since we're kind of talking about kind of moving away in like, if you're in a small town. So coming from a small town like college, Oshkosh, and then coming here, what were kind of the big standout things for you that kind of changed your perspective?
Big standout things. Moving out, so many like, I think America is very similar, but Wisconsin is similar where we have a lot of Wisconsin pride. Like even though I'll claim to not love Wisconsin, if I pour like a heavy drink, I'll still be like, I'm from Wisconsin, you know? But then like, I didn't realize that it's like when you tell people you're from America outside of the US, I'm like, oh, I'm from Wisconsin. People are like, especially now. Cause it's like, again, it's hard to see when you're on the outside, but to us, you know, like in New York right now, it's like Wisconsin's going crazy, you know? Yeah. So it's like, that's one thing that I think is different, realizing that, but also whenever I meet someone from the Midwest, I immediately feel more at home and I immediately like, it's easier to talk to. I'll meet a lot of people and be like, they're really rude, but that's just New York. You know, they're not rude, they're just quick. So probably it's an adjustment. I didn't think. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm city, but it's different. It's like slight differences.
It's a lot more walking. I noticed that, but I like that. I miss that kind of feel from college. Is like I get to walk wherever I need to go.
I mean, you don't mind the walking when you realize that cops can't pull you over when you're walking. Theoretically. Theoretically.
Let's be honest. I've been pulled over walking.
Knock on wood. I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, that's big time. But kind of moving into questions. Actually, we're gonna take a break.
Yeah.
Because 20 minutes.
I'm just trying to go and kick it with the homie Tyree.